The talk around Boston today, the Patriots doing nothing at the trade deadline, not making a single trade of anybody coming in to play for this team in the 2025 season that now has so much promise. And it's pissed a lot of Patriots fans off. A lot of them. And there was some hype going into this trade deadline, and certainly I was out here on my airwaves talking about it for a week straight about how they've freed up some space. They've got cap room. They've got draft picks. They've got too many draft picks for 2026. Apparently, that was not the case because the Patriots don't bring in anybody via trade. That stunned me. Absolutely stunned me. If nothing else, you were going to get some depth. Maybe not the big Trey Hendrickson kind of deal, sure, but at least some depth for this team. But is it bad news for the Patriots? I don't know if I'm ready to go that far yet, but it is disappointing. It's very disappointing. This was not a big-time seller's market. Obviously, a huge blockbuster deal in the Sauce Gardner thing. Quentin Williams goes out the door, and then a lot of the usual suspects go out for a lot of the usual compensation. But it didn't cost you an arm and a leg to make your team better this year. And that's what's disappointing. I think that's what pisses off a lot of Patriots fans today. It wasn't going to cost you a first-round pick. Probably wasn't going to cost you a second-round pick either to make your team better. And that starts when I saw the Rashid Shaheed deal with him going to Seattle. Like, Rashid Shaheed, maybe the best deep ball target on the market this year. Might be a good match to match him up with the most accurate deep ball passer in the National Football League. I don't know. Maybe that does something for you. Because each of his 3 NFL seasons before this one, where this one is having Spencer Rattler as his quarterback, 28th in the league in yards per attempt. So when he has a quarterback who can actually push the ball more than 6 yards down the field, like he had in his 3 NFL seasons before this one, he was averaging over 15 yards a catch. 3 straight seasons of that. He goes to Seattle for a 5th-round pick and a 6th-round pick in next year's draft. Like that guy couldn't have helped you. That guy couldn't have elevated you this year. That guy couldn't have helped out your second-year quarterback right now this year, especially when Kayshon Boutte probably won't play on Sunday. And we don't know the extent of that injury, really. Boutte said on Instagram, oh, it's a grade 1, that's fine, or it's not a grade 1, whichever one is the better one. He says he might play on Sunday, probably next Thursday against the Jets. But, this cost you nothing, man. A 5th and a 6th? Great. Now you stash that. That 6th-rounder could be Joe Milton or Chasen Hines or Joshua Bledsoe, the other guys you've picked in the 6th round recently. And if the Patriots did go with that deal, that same deal that Seattle got, they'd still have 3 6th-round picks in next year's draft. It cost you nothing to get Rashid Shaheed, man. That's where I'm not getting it. Because I do understand the other side of what some people are talking about on why it's a good thing that the Patriots stood pat and didn't do anything. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But when you look at the market and what it was calling for, the Patriots could have afforded all of these guys. They'd still have 3 6th-round picks left over if you love 6th-round picks that much. Or how about another one that I wasn't as high on, but definitely could have helped your team? How about Jacoby Myers coming back? Obviously we know played well in New England, was starting to become a star, and then goes to Vegas, has a good year, and it's been kind of up and down since. Plays well in a Josh McDaniels offense. He's going to block for you. You sure as heck know that. Fan favorite, move the chains kind of guy. He goes for a 4th-rounder and a 6th-rounder. Great work by Vegas, by the way, to get a 4th and a 6th for him, for Jacksonville, who was not selling Brian Thomas Jr., apparently. Well, that is a steep price for a rental. I mean, look at the players you can get in the 4th round. I mean, you can get Ramondre Stevenson, Dietrich Wise, Aaron Hernandez. Well, that one, I don't know. But guess what? You can also get Chad Ryland, Jarrett Stidham, even Javon Baker. in the 4th round. And guess what? Guess what? If you traded one of your 4th round picks, you'd still have another one. Like, if you traded a 4th and a 6th, you would still have 4 picks combined in those 2 rounds still at your disposal. So, like, I understand, like, oh, man, you could get half a season of Jacoby Myers, or you could get 3 or 4 years of someone like a Ramondre Stevenson or a Dietrich Wise or Aaron Hernandez. But anyway, we're beyond that. But you still have those picks at your disposal. Like, this to me is an organization saying, you know, we've been so up and down with the draft, mostly down, that we're just going to have as many draft picks as possible. Not to trade, but to not fuck it up. Instead of getting one of those guys, and that's just the offensive guys, by the way, instead of getting one of those guys or Arden Key or any of them, you know, Jalen Phillips probably wasn't at their disposal because, you know, they've got the whole interdivision thing. But instead of all that, you went out and you got Jerry Rice's kid off waivers. That's what you did instead. You didn't want to make a trade to make your team better. Instead, you got Jerry Rice's son, who's released by the Chargers this year. And they called Seattle. They called him for Boye Mafe to try to latch on to his 0 sacks this year. They called him. Are they just going to become the new Red Sox, the interest kings? Hey, we tried. We tried. Here's the thing. Again, not all of us were expecting a big splash. I probably drank the Kool-Aid a little bit with how many draft picks they got last week. I was like, no team needs 10 draft picks. Nobody. Definitely not one that's fucking first place in the conference, in the division, and a legit contender in the conference, man. 7-2 teams don't need 10 draft picks. Even 8 is fine. Like, that's good. That's part of a rebuild. But 10? Why do you need 10? You need players. You need talent. I thought you'd at least get some depth. And you really didn't. You got Terrell Jennings the week before off the practice squad. And you got Jerry Rice's kid. Was it Brendan Rice? Ooh. Bill Belichick might not be there anymore. But John Bond might be still up in the booth with up in the suite with Robert Kraft. This team is living on a prayer. Big time. They are one injury away from really tanking themselves here. They, with their depth, their minuscule injury report, and yes, their schedule, they are living on a prayer. And this trade deadline, not making any trades, not bringing anybody in, that was the Patriots telling you, the fans, this isn't it. This isn't the year for us. And I think a lot of the fan base would say, well, yeah, it's not the year. Like, we're not going to win the Super Bowl, but we can make a pretty good run at this right now. You know, Drake May's still on the rookie contract, and we saw a team with a rookie quarterback go to the conference championship last year and have fallen out of contention by late October this year in the Washington Commanders because these things happen. You get injuries. And instead, the Patriots said, next year. That's where we're going to do it. Next year. And like, to some degree, I think we all understand that. I think we all understand there's still a rebuild going on, right? And that next year, they should be much more of a contender than they are this year. I think that's a reasonable expectation, but it is a sour taste when you know how fleeting this can be in the NFL. We're seeing it. Every year we see it. We're seeing it with Washington this year, but it's take your pick, man. Cincinnati is a classic example, right, of how fleeting this time is at the top. It does not last forever. And especially the Patriots kind of know that over the last few seasons and a failed rebuild in 2021. And so it does sting when that team that's finally refreshing and fun and good again is telling you, this isn't it. This isn't the time for us. Waiting on that moment. This isn't it. That's frustrating when you know what's at their disposal. And if nothing else, you could have got some depth to make your team more of a contender this year. Instead, you decided to do nothing. Now, the other argument is this. They have played the easiest schedule in football. They haven't played a playoff team in 5 weeks here, and they will play only a couple of more throughout the rest of the season. In fact, their schedule got even easier after the trade deadline with how much worse Miami and New York got, and they're pretty friggin' bad already. Their schedule is even easier than it was at the beginning of the season now. And you're not very young across the board. I'd say overall, you're not very young at running back, even though you have a rookie in there in Travion Henderson. The other guy's Ramondre Stevenson. He's not young. You're not necessarily young on that offensive line. Half of it is. The other half's pretty friggin' old. You're definitely not young at tight end at all. You're geriatric at tight end. You're not young at linebacker. You're not, I don't know if you're talented enough at safety, let alone young. This is a team that has some cracks in the foundation, and we knew that already. That's why I thought you'd get depth. What the Patriots are looking at it as, or the way they're looking at it is, we are still rebuilding. We are winning in the midst of a rebuild. We're still early in this rebuild, and we just happen to have a quarterback that's good enough to elevate us that we're winning. But we've got a long ways to go here. They're saying we need 10 draft picks, which surprised me because that's not the way that Mike Vrabel operated in Tennessee. And they had some good teams. I know it wasn't great at the end, and maybe that's what he's thinking about, if I need to create something more sustainable here. But they had some good teams before that. They made an AFC championship game before that. And so I was surprised to see the Patriots punt on this trade deadline and say, you know what, this isn't the time for us. Because I thought there were plenty of moves you could have made to make yourselves better right now, like a Rashid Shaheed that didn't cost you a lot. And the ones that would cost you some would have an eye towards the future. And once Sauce Gardner goes off the board, which, wow. Once he goes off the board, not that the Patriots had any interest, obviously, but then you're like, okay, are we going to really have two giant blockbusters in the same day? NFL trade deadline is not like the MLB trade deadline at all. That was like a once in a decade kind of trade to get rid of Sauce Gardner. And real quick, while we're talking about it, yummy. What does that Sauce Gardner trade mean for the Patriots? What does it mean for Christian Gonzalez? We talked all last week about, Marcus Jones's extension. Are they going to lock up Christian Gonzalez? Are they afraid to because of his injury history? He's going to, Sauce Gardner kind of sets the market. Christian Gonzalez is a better corner than Sauce Gardner. And Sauce set the new record with, $30 million a year. The Jets signed him to that $30 million contract, 4 years for $120. The Jets signed him to that 3.5 months ago. And they just traded him. Like, I get it. The Jets suck, and it was a good return. But they traded him. So what does that mean for corners looking for their money now? There's no guarantees. I mean, you're going to get that money, but there's no guarantee on where you're going to play. Of course, Sauce in a better situation now. A bit of a better situation than he was with the Jets. But you got to wonder about that if you're Christian Gonzalez and if you're the Patriots and if you're some other team looking for a linebacker or, a cornerback over the next couple of years. So I wonder what that does to Christian Gonzalez's contract, which they're going to need to pay him. They're going to need to pay him, and I hope they do pay him. I think he is that good. I think he is deserving of it. I think he is one of the 3 or 4 best cornerbacks in football. But anyway, let me know what you guys think about the Patriots standing pat at the trade deadline. Does that piss you off? Do you understand where they're coming from? Are we ahead of schedule in terms of them being 7-2 for a team that should still be rebuilding? Let me know in the comment section below. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. Of course, we come at you every weekday on YouTube live at noon Eastern time, and then wherever you get your podcasts as well. It is your lunchtime alternative to Boston Sports Talk Radio here on the Wicked Boston Show with your host, Cam Stuart.